Welcome to Parallel Universe. There was a time when the entire world knew the name Monica Lewinsky. Not because she chose the spotlight, but because it found her in a way no one could have ever imagined. In the late 1990s, her name became part of one of the most talked about political scandals in modern history. Overnight, she went from being a relatively unknown young woman to the center of global attention. News channels, newspapers, late-night shows, everyone was talking about her. But what often gets forgotten is that behind the headlines, there was a real person. A person who had to wake up every day knowing that her life had been turned into a global conversation. At a time when social media didn't even exist the way it does today. The level of exposure she faced was already overwhelming. Now imagine that same situation in today's world, it would be even more intense. For Monica Lewinsky, there was no escaping it. The story followed her everywhere. The attention didn't fade quickly. And the public perception was often harsh. For years, she became the subject of jokes, criticism, and media narratives that rarely told the full story. People formed opinions without ever knowing what it felt like to be in her position. And that's where a real journey begins. Because what happened after the headlines faded is something most people never truly followed. Stepping away from that level of public scrutiny isn't easy. For many, it can take years to rebuild a sense of normal life. And for Monica Lewinsky, that process was anything but simple. She tried to move forward, to build a life beyond the identity that had been placed on her. But the past doesn't just disappear. It lingers in public memory, in search results, in conversations that resurface years later. And yet, despite all of that, she didn't disappear. Instead, something changed. Over time, Monica Lewinsky began to shift her narrative. Instead of being defined by what happened to her, she slowly started taking control of her own story. One of the most powerful moments in that transformation came when she spoke openly about her experiences, about public shaming, about online bullying, and about the emotional toll of being at the center of global attention. She became one of the first public figures to openly discuss what it feels like to be publicly humiliated on a massive scale. And people started to listen. Because the world had changed. Conversations around mental health, online harassment, and public accountability were becoming more important than ever. And suddenly, her story wasn't just something from the past, it was relevant again, but in a completely different way. She wasn't the same person the media had once portrayed. She was stronger, more aware, more in control of her voice. But even then, life didn't just become easy. Because when you've been part of something that big, something that widely known, it never fully leaves your identity. There are always reminders. Moments when the past resurfaces. Moments when people bring it up again. Moments when the world looks back, even when you're trying to move forward. And that's the part people don't always see. From the outside, it might look like she moved on. But internally, those experiences shape you. They change how you see the world, how you trust people, how you live your life. Today, Monica Lewinsky is no longer defined by scandal alone. She's an activist, a public speaker, someone who uses her past experiences to raise awareness about issues that affect millions of people around the world. She speaks about cyberbullying, public shaming, and the impact of online culture, topics that have become more important than ever in today's digital age. And in many ways, that's the most powerful part of her story. Because instead of disappearing, she evolved. Instead of staying silent, she spoke. Instead of being defined by one chapter, she rewrote the narrative. But even with all that growth, there's still a certain weight to her story. Not because she failed. Not because her life fell apart. But because of what she had to go through. So publicly. So intensely. At such a young age. And that's why, when people look at her life now, It feels different. Not in a dramatic or shocking way, but in a deeper, more emotional sense. Because her story is no longer just about what happened. It's about what it took to move forward after it. From being one of the most talked about names in the world, to building a life that focuses on meaning, awareness, and purpose. That kind of transformation doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, strength, and resilience. And maybe that's the part that truly surprises people. Not how she looks, not where she is, but who she became after everything. Because sometimes, the most powerful stories aren't about the rise, or even the fall. They're about what comes after. And in Monica Lewinsky's case, that part of the story is still being written.